Stay tuned for Wrestling with Computers, the show where we show you how to take your technology to the full potential. So go get yourself a piece of paper and a pencil, because you're going to want to take notes. We're off to the world of technology. Welcome to Wrestling with Computers. I'm Wrestling Brewster from Brewster PC Solutions, and today we're going to talk about servers. I've got my associate Bob Mullaney from our server division with us today, and we're going to talk about when you need a server, what's going on with servers, and all about servers. Thanks for coming, Bob.
Thank you.
So let's start out, what is a server atmosphere, and what's the difference between a server atmosphere and like a workstation atmosphere?
Essentially a server is a computer that's designed, built, and additionally has software to manage your computer network. It's not really a PC or a workstation. It's not meant to play games on. It's more very, business-oriented, a lot more robustly built. It's made to go 24/7, 7 days a week. For years. It's kind of a different animal. There are a lot of new and exciting things you can do with a server in the background. A lot of stuff that folks originally were priced out of the market as far as a small business. And in the past 10 years, there's been such a huge advance in what's available, and the cost has dropped, immensely. It's really easy for a small business to, if they decide that they need it, to get into a server atmosphere with a domain and a network.
Because I know a lot of our clients, when we first talk to them about servers, they have kind of a misconception about what a server entails. A lot of them will say, well, can't you just install it on one of my computers I have, yes. and couldn't you just just make it happen?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of our clients will say, well, go ahead, put the server in, and we'll say, all right, well, we'll buy a piece of machinery.
Yes. Yes.
So we're not talking about you go into Best Buy and you buy a desktop or a laptop, and
Yep.
that's your server. So we're talking more about a big honking computer that's
Mm-hmm.
got a lot of RAM and a lot of speed to it.
Yeah.
It's basically the centralized brain and traffic cop, and it's doing a lot of stuff. So it has to be something very specific and has to be put into a network that can stand this.
Mm-hmm.
When does a business know when it needs? When should it get a server as opposed
Mm-hmm.
to a workstation? A workstation is more a bunch of computers just working by themselves.
Yeah, that's a great question. Essentially, a business needs to look at a server environment when they've got multiple users. They're running the same program, maybe. They're finding that those programs are running slow. And they have to ask the question, what would happen? Could our business actually function were our computers down? Would we lose a lot of money? Could we actually do something if we're in the retail? Could we get orders? If we're doing services and we've got scheduling, can we schedule our crews? If the computer is down, is this going to literally put me out of business? Or is this something that we can kind of muddle through with? If you're a carpenter, yeah, you can still go out and, and bang nails.
Right.
But, otherwise, if you're an accountant, if you're a law firm, this may stop you dead in the water. That's what when a server comes in, the server is made to be fairly bulletproof and to run, to keep you up and running, so you don't lose business, so you don't lose productivity. And additionally, security. If you fall under the new mass info security law,
The CMR 201.
Yes, exactly. That's something that you need to strongly consider a server because of the enhanced security that goes along with that type of environment.
So let's talk a little bit about the security. How is it enhanced? If someone were to say, well, I've got an antivirus, I've got a firewall on my workstation, and everybody's looking pretty secure. What's the added security that a server would bring into an atmosphere like that?
A server brings in another level on top of that. Actually, what a server does is it's the centralized management of your entire network. On a security, from a security standpoint, the server in the background, you would be able to program in, say, password for authentication. So you would tell it, okay, you're going to make sure that your users that are using their PCs have to change their password every 30 days. And it has to be 7 digits long and have a capital, and then, it's not their initials or their dog, or something like that. So it enhances the security level before they actually get into the system. Additionally, there's another firewall, there's another level of antivirus on top of that that's guarding the critical data. If you have a PC and you're online and, or a user goes somewhere that, maybe they shouldn't, or they open an email they're not really sure about, they've let that person in. They've let whoever, if there's a virus in there, they've let them in at that point. The server is another wall behind that. So it may have now affected that PC, but the server is behind the scenes protecting your data, the data that you really need to be safe. And that's one of the differences. The other difference is, especially with the newer programming like Windows Small Business Server 2011, it actually monitors your other PCs, and it'll send you a report saying this one over there doesn't have this security update. This one over there, his antivirus is out of date. So it'll send you a report that you can see that that these different computers have these different issues. And that's part of what the server, the latest advancement in servers are doing. It's not only just itself, but it's monitoring the entire network and giving you a report on it, so you can act on it.
So one of the huge differences from that is that you're getting in a network where you just have a work group, a bunch of computers managing themselves. They're an entity in themselves.
Correct.
So once you get on a network with a domain and a server, that server kind of manages them. Because I know when we get a report from one of our servers out in the field, it makes it so we don't have to be there 24/7 going in and looking at each individual computer and saying, okay, that computer needs this, that computer just didn't get that update, that computer needs this antivirus. So that alone in an atmosphere lets us know how the network as a whole is doing. It's not little each individual entity.
Yeah.
So that part of it is pretty huge. Going back to security, CMR 201 says a lot of stuff about security on computers, but it says that you have to do due diligence to make sure if you house individual information from anybody in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you have to X, Y, and Z. How does the server atmosphere do that?
Well, essentially, what the server does is it monitors that. It's the one that actually will do that and continually keep up to it on a on a day-to-day basis. So you're not relying on the users or yourself to remember at a certain time, because the guidelines are fairly strict as to what you have to do. You have to have a plan in place. You have to have a designated person that says, I'm the one that's going to go around and make sure my PCs are up to date on all of their updates and everything like that. The server takes that worry away from you. It's actually out there watching all the time, and then giving you a report telling you that. So that's you've automated a lot of the processes and a lot of the protections that are required by CMR 201. Now you're having the server handle it. The server is doing backups also. So you've got one less thing you have to worry about. I mean, you can look at it at when it sends you the report. So it's really it's a much stronger secure network now than just individual PCs doing their own thing and
more basically as a network as opposed to a bunch of individuals connected to the same port.
Correct.
It's when you're starting to talk about a network. there's a lot of intricacies that go on. And if you have, I know a lot of small businesses when we first go in have a work group, and they've got a fair 20 computers, say, and their complaint is the network's slow, we keep crashing, we keep having problems with security. So there's no centralized place with that work group.
And a work group really isn't designed to do that. They've made do and they've adapted it.
Right.
But in essence, a work group is just that, a small group of maybe 3 or 4 computers in a little department or whatever working together. Never was it intended to be a big, a organization-wide solution. That's when you start moving into the server area, because that's what they're designed to do. There's a lot of programming in the background that's done that actually enhances and speeds up the network. It does all of this different management functions in the background to help the network speed up. The hard drives, down to the actual hard drives, are faster. They run faster. Everything runs, and it's totally focused on making your network perform. That's how a server got its name. It's serving the data to the PCs as they ask for it. So the PC is not doing the majority of the computing. It's actually the server behind the scenes, the one that can handle it, that's doing that. So there's you always find if someone's got a work group, they're always complaining about that, and basically you have to tell them that's because that's not what it's designed to do. And if you're running a software that's that they call like a client-server software, QuickBooks as an example. A lot of clients will come in and they've got their QuickBooks on one PC, and then they've got it so that it's shared between a couple others, and they're wondering why this poor PC that it's on is running slow and why everything takes so long to update and crashes on the network. Exactly, and it's because it's not designed that way. It's designed to host the database on a server. The server sends that stuff to the PCs, and the PCs only use what they need, and the server handles everything else. The heavy lifting, I guess you would call it. Right. So that's what we try to tell clients. And again, you get into this, you start to talk to them about servers, and I can see them right away. First of all, they see dollar signs, and then they see, okay, now I've got to have a room, an air-conditioned room, and I've got these things, and then that's not the case anymore. I mean, there are those you do need, if you're a huge corporation, yeah, you would have that. You would have that type of a setup, but for a small company now, you can buy a server and relatively cheaply, and just park it under a desk, and you'll be perfectly fine, perfectly happy. You don't have to worry.
Well-ventilated area.
A well-ventilated area, yes, but and something preferably not like in a closet somewhere with mops and things, but but they'll be perfectly happy in an office environment. You don't need to build something special, and the price is just, for the price of a good laptop, you can get a server.
Yeah. So. Talk a little bit about what a domain contains, what it is, and a little bit about domains, because that's basically what's behind the server. Is a server creates. We talk about a network, but a domain is a little step further than a network.
Yeah. A domain is actually it's the term they use. They also it's set up what the name describes, a domain, and we use Active Directory, which is the listing of the people that can enter the domain, the users, and what the users can do when they're in the domain. Now everybody knows .com. Well, what that name is, .com, is your domain. On the web, you'd be www, brewsterpcsolutions.com. That's your domain on the web. Internally, you would have brewsterpcsolutions.local. And within that domain, you have everybody that can enter the domain, what they can do. It's also tied to your email. You're outside, so when you're on the web, people can reach you via email or remote into the system if they know what it is. They know what the URL is, and the server will then allow you to come in and use the resources of that server on the web or internally. So it's basically an entire, almost like a fort, if you will, and the server is acting as the gatekeeper of it.
So when you mentioned domains and .coms, so if a business were to have a server atmosphere and a domain, they can actually manage their email systems in-house.
Correct.
So that they could have, added users, changed passwords, put new emails in, all in-house instead of going to, for example, GoDaddy.com or somewhere like that. Talk a little bit how that works, about how, that is an added feature of servers. Yeah,
if you're working, and especially now with Microsoft, they've really done with their small business, the small business server programming and the offering that they have. They allow you to, it's called Exchange, and they allow you to manage your email in-house. So you don't have to call up, you don't have to go online, or even worse, if you're using an outside provider using the email that an ISP gives you and you want to dump him, you don't have to go and change all your emails to another provider.
Right.
All your stationery, everything else. You are in control of what your email is on the web and who's using that email. Yeah. Additionally, what you also get with that is you share calendars, you share contacts, you can have an actual what they call a global address listing within the company, and everybody can look at that. So you don't have to have you have your contacts on your iPhone and she's got her contacts, and you don't know which ones are which. You have a global one, you can share those. You share calendars, so everybody within the organization knows what's going on that day, what you're doing, what other folks in the organization are doing, and that flows all the way out to now to smartphones. You can get your email on your smartphone from your own server. You can get your calendar, so you don't have to print it out for the day and look at it. You've got it on your iPhone. You know what you're as well as you can update it on your iPhone, and it will update back in the office, so the folks in the office know where you're going to be next, if you've changed plans. So this is what the latest technology within the past 2 or 3 years, and the the moves they're making towards cloud